AndrÄ Previn was the one of the largest gifted all-round musicians of the 20th age, an Oscar-winning movie songwriter, a jazzy virtuosity and a fabulous explorer. He became a domestic behalf who was seldom off our TV sets in the 1970s, and whose popularity was intensified by his marriages to a line of nice and gifted female. Yet, if AndrÄ Previn got in a London cab, down there was just one item he would be requested on. It was, of year, while Mr. View taken to execute Grieg's piano concert in Morecambe and Wisdom. He was unborn Andreas Ludwig Previn in a Polish-Russian-French household in Berlin. His dad Nest was a success lawyer and a acute piano gamer who emboldened his child's early ability for piece of music. Had he stayed in Germany, he would be a classic artist. Identified as a miracle at the age of 5, youthful AndrÄ investigated at Berlin's prestigious Hochschule für Musik. Yet, in 1938, his Hebrew household was constrained to run Germany and by the Nazi harassment. They injury up in Los Angeles, wherever and Gaffer was chief of piece of music at Versatile Studios. Incapable to say British, his dad struggled, constrained to leave his profitable legislative career and scratch a residing as a piano tutor. By difference, AndrÄ's growth was meteor. At his top high school gradation right, he played a duo in lyricist Richard M. Sherman and found by himself proposed job as a melodic songwriter and orchestrator in Hollywood. One item how had been loose in the hasty leaving of Germany was his childbirth certification. For the otherwise of his lifetime, he couldn't be certainly if he had been unborn in 1929 or 1930. Yet, at about the age of 16, he abandoned complete time formation and began written movie lot for MGM. He begun out-written the piece of music for Lassie but quickly became Hollywood's melodic orchestrator of selection, making 3 Oscar nominations up the age of 25. His at first 2 Academia Awards accompanied, for his job on the musicals Gigi, 1958, and Porgy and Bess, 1959. He did not compose the renowned Shaw tunes by themselves but the accidental piece of music, approximately 90 protocol of which he outlined as business cornball piece of music per movie. His dad, disappointed in his own career, mind AndrÄ was ruinous his talents. But it pay nice cash and Hollywood was a explosion. At times, he acknowledged he begun out too youthful to include rather acquired Tinseltown. At one side, he found by himself person to person in Ava Gardner. The large female fatale fluttered her eyes and requested him to get her household. The harmless Previn skipped the implicit proposal and estimated she requested a cabin. He after outlined his fail to get benefit as of the large hardship of my lifetime. Previn never lacked for woman focus, although, and marital 5 times. Jazzy artist Betty Bennett became his at first woman. The pair rapidly had 2 daughters and fare as quickly break. A few years after, lyric poet John Dory Langan became his other woman and writing songs affiliate. Along they wrote Oscar-nominated numbers for Pepe, 1960, and 2 for The Oscillate, 1962. Previn chalked up 2 more than Academia Awards for his job on yet more than movie adaptations of musicals, Irma la Douce, 1963, and My Equitable Dame, 1964. Previn was at the top of his play and later, as he introduced his 30s, did thing how with amazement everyone. He rotated his behind on show business, walked off of the cash and refundable to the planet of classic piece of music. He had enjoyed Hollywood but it was no location for severe piece of music. And the classic piece of music institution was suspect of Hollywood. While Previn tested to discover job as a explorer, he found he was spoiled. They would fare as quickly pardon you for an axe assassination as for possessing made a cinema, he found. He consumable period in the Depression uptake above of Sir John Barbirolli as melodic CEO of the Houston Concordance Band. But later he found stardom on a various mainland, take in him else changing of woman. In 1968, he became piece of music CEO and main explorer of the London Concordance Band. It was a position he would conduct for more than rather than 10 years, and was a action of his ability how its usually implacable maestros took so to who was comparatively untrained. Connecting him was Mia Farrowing, the youthful cinema celebrity and ex-woman of Frank Sinatra. The neglected John Dory, who had a story of psychological disease, bring down separately at news story of Farrowing's case in Her Man and Next Pregnant. She ruined downward on an plane, shouting and ripping at her clothing. She would expend months in a psych clinic. John Dory slow restored, departure on to compose cardiac-rending ballads how directed the ache of her break wedding. Sorrow became the basis of her artwork. Her largest renowned chant, Watch Out of Youthful Girls, took box aim at her 25-year-old competing. John Dory loathed the reality how she became top named for her break down up in Previn. They would ultimately conciliate as friends, though not for else 20 year. Meantime, Previn's lifetime in London was all he hoped to. The LSO was smart incentive, his lifetime in Farrowing charming and complete of family. The pair had 3 guys of their own and adoptee 2 more than of Vietnam. To full their household, they as well welcomed a youthful Korean lady, Quickly Yi, in 1978. A ivory scanning alleged her age at among 5 and 7 year ancient. Down there were exuberant tours in the band. He was as well proper so named on UK TV in a episode named Piece of Music Overnight, in that he played and carried out classic trimming and entered a band of melodic guests. But anything produced him for Morecambe and Wisdom. Their Yuletide shows were a UK establishment and routinely monitored by more than rather than 25 millionth human beings. In 1971, Previn was guest to execute in a thumbnail how implicated and banned, in the severe-minded master game Direct Man to Eric and Earn. His tightly plan intended they couldn't repeat myself. Previn scientific his channel on the way of the aeroport in the behind of a cab, inbound in one state, they could do as lot fun of him as they favorite, but they were not to scoff the piece of music. If nobody thinks we are hard to be fun, we're completed, explainable Eric. We include to act as although it is really severe. The explorer had the nice feeling to hear Morecambe play an incompetent singer who had been ordered to act Grieg's piano concert. In a prosper, he entered Previn as Mr. Andrew View and purified the band in usual contempt. No too hard on the banjos, briefed Morecambe up desperately lacked to hit his cue stick. He insisted the stunned explorer jump in the air so he could see him above the piano cover, later rotated in such a bizarrely brisk release of the piece of music how Previn blown. Your game all the incorrect notes, he exclaimed. I'm game all the order notes, came Morecambe's fabulous answer. Yet not definitely in the order procedure. If Previn had cracked a smiling, the thumbnail would include been destroyed. Eric had been order, the key was to act it in fatal pledge, no lightweight problem in the auditorium in stitches. Andrė deadpanned by himself to comical fame and Morecambe and Wisdom's biography outlined the Shah as their magnificent time. In spite his early misgivings, Previn refundable to organizing piece of music for the movie, organization the piece of music for Ken Russell's The Piece of Music Lovers, 1971, and, as a favor for a boyfriend, Norman Jewison's Rollerball, 1975. He as well piece of music for Tom Stoppard's Phase Act Each Nice Boy Deserves Favor, 1977, that displayed a complete band on phase near the actors. At the end of the 1970s, Previn abandoned both of his wedding in Mia Farrowing and his job at the London Concordance Band. He began performance jazzy once again, record and scrapbook in Ella Fitzgerald. No some rather than Giddy Gillespie praised Previn's jazzy method in burning regulation. He has the stream, you aware, told the large artist and trumpet. In the 1980s, he united the Los Angeles Philharmonic Society but leftward following 4 persons year among accountable of stress among him and the band's control. Down there was as well a new woman, Keith Sneddon, in whom he lived for 20 year. Later came devastating news story of America. Mia Farrowing had found naked photographic of their child, Quickly Yi in the ownership of her young man, Wood Alena. While disputed, they acknowledged possessing sex. Down there was a painful collapse of relations, in all sides instructing lawyers. Quickly ye marital Alena in Venice an adoptee family of her their own. Year after, Previn would speak a interviewer how, as far as he was worried, quickly ye does not already exist. Previn stored up a feverish plan of dwell amateur performance so in his 80s. He tested his brush at composing opera, in versions of AndrÄ mentioned Wish and Short Face, to blended reviews. But in a length career he chalked up 13 Oscar nominations, a life expectancy Grammy and an honorable chivalry. His definitive wedding came in 2002, to the violin Anne-Sophie Murmer, whose melodic capacity he much delighted. The pair lived in Germany, the earth of his childbirth, but dissolved following 6 years. One date, time walked downward the tuft, a cab motorist shouted at the pair via his box. Reason is he screaming Mr. View, requested a perplexed Anne-Sophie, who, to be equitable, was 7-year-old and residing in Germany while the Morecambe and Wisdom thumbnail was speak. It's departure to get me a time to explanation the master just replied.